Hello surveyors. So in the last class we have seen how we have filtered the unwanted data and unwanted noise, that is vegetation and mining objects, from our area of interest. So once the filtering process has been done, now we have to create a digital terrain model, that is DTM, or 3D solid model of that area of interest. So as you can see that in the objects folder, point clouds subfolder, area of interest AOI is filtered. So let us open it in true color, click OK. OK, this is our area of interest. So once the filtration process is finished, we have to make the solid model or DTM of this area of interest. So for doing that, what we have to do is we have to create the polydata of this point cloud. For that, I have to press Ctrl+A in keyboard to select the entire data, and there is an option here called copy selection into new polydata. So click on that option and you can see that in the objects folders polydata subfolder there is a polydata 001 created. This is nothing but polydata of our area of interest. So close this window. Now first, if you want to rename this polydata, then rename that to, I will rename it as AOI, signifying area of interest. So to sparse this polydata, what I have to do is right click and click on create polydata option. Then a pop-up window will open. In that window you have to untick any option and tick on octree option here. So once octree option has been clicked, you can see there are values of X, Y and Z under octree option here. In these values, only under the increment option, you have to change the value of X and Y only. For example, if I have to make my area of interest every 5 meter apart, that is make the two consecutive points 5 meter apart, then I have to make the value here 5, and similarly here also 5, and you don't have to change the value of increment of Z. Okay, so you just have to change the values in X and Y increment and not in Z increment. Okay, so once you have entered the value 5 and 5 in X and Y respectively, just click OK, and you can see here the process has finished and area of interest 2, that is area of interest with points 5 meter apart, has created. So you can see while selecting this AOI in this particular window, you can see it contains 2,24,796 points, and area of interest 2, that is the polydata which has two consecutive points 5 meter apart, has only 4,819 points here. So it means that our polydata has been filtered. So I will rename this polydata to remember 5 meter. Okay, now open this particular polydata. Okay, you can see here is the point cloud density has been decreased, but also make sure that you can't decrease the point density to such extent that the shape and size of the area of interest gets deviated from its originality. Okay, so you can't just make two consecutive points 50 meter apart or something like that, because the geometry of our area of interest would affect. So okay, once you have decreased the point density of area of interest, now select the entire data by pressing Ctrl+A, and after pressing Ctrl+A, there is an option called triangulate selected data. So click on it. This triangulation process is nothing but creating DTM or 3D solid model out of polydata. So for that there are various options here. First option is maximum triangle edge length. So what this process do is it joins three nearby points and create a triangle, that is solid surface in the form of triangle, and after creating one triangle it creates another, and so on and so forth, until and unless the entire polydata is converted into 3D DTM. So it is asking that the maximum triangle edge length that you want to assign to this setting. So that depends, there is not any standard value to put in. So just by looking at the data we can see that generally our points are 5 meter apart generally in the maximum area here. So just put the value greater than 5 meter. So let us begin by 10 meter, and maximum tilt angle should be 90 degree and minimum triangle angle should be 1 degree always, and click on triangulate. Okay, the triangulation process has finished and you can see that our data has been converted into DTM. Now deselect all, see, has been converted. This data has been converted into solid surface. Okay, however there are many holes present in here, and why these holes are present here is because when I have decided to put the maximum triangle edge length while triangulation process, every two consecutive points which are more than 10 meters apart were not able to create triangle. So it's very natural that the holes will come. So in order to fill these holes, what we have to do is click on selection mode and select the holes of similar shape. I have already told you how to select by clicking and creating a polygon around that hole, and while you have convinced that the entire hole has been selected, just right click to finish the selection. And this okay, just for the sake of practice here I will not select all the holes here because it will take very much time. So once entire holes of similar size has been selected, just click on this maximum triangle edge length option, and just by looking at this, if the 10 meter edge length was not enough, so I will increase it to be 20 meter. This is just hit and trial method. There is no standard values that we have to put. Just increase a little bit, and if the hole fills, you just go to the next large holes and do the same by again increasing the triangle edge length. So with the 20 value, if I will triangulate, okay, holes are filled up. Again I will deselect the point and I will again start selecting the holes. You can't select the entire data. This is very much important. I can't just select the entire data again and increase the maximum triangle edge length and then run the triangulation process. No, because the points where I have put the maximum triangle edge length 10 were already triangulated, so it will re-triangulate them and the shape and size of those triangles will change, and this will significantly affect the output volume. Okay, so you have to move gradually, step by step. So I am defying my rule of selecting the holes of same size just to fasten the process. You however have to select the holes. Suppose this hole, this hole, this hole. Don't select this hole. I'm just doing it for saving time, just to make you understand. So follow the rule. Let us say 100. Okay, so now almost all the holes are filled up. There are few holes. Again I will fill them too. So these are pretty much small holes, so I won't input the maximum triangle edge length to be 100. Of course, I will again do 20 and triangulate. Okay, so once holes are filled, there is one large hole left. Okay, so almost all the holes have filled up. Deactivate this selection mode and click on deselect all, and this is how my data will look like. So one observation here is the data does not have spikes. Okay, this signifies that the filtration process has been performed very well. Okay, so if there are spikes, that means there are points, those of either vegetation or the mining object. Okay, so filter very carefully before triangulating, and this is how we will triangulate. So also this is the point cloud after the excavation process, so you have to make a DTM of initial data as well when we have begun the excavation process. So there is again a prerequisite that you have to have the initial surface of this area of interest. Okay, and you have to make the DTM of that surface too. Okay, so close this window and I will import my initial surface as well. How to import and where to import? So you have to import inside objects, polydata folder, right click on the polydata and click on import. And I have already created a .csv file, so you have to create a .csv file of that initial surface with northing, easting and elevation or RL value. Okay, and click on open. So a pop-up window will open. You have to choose the global coordinate system in coordinate system. If there is a heading, then you have to check it by unticking the skip the first line. So there is purely data only. There are no headings or any unwanted thing in my data. And also easting is under X value only. I have already shown you. If it was not here, something like that, if something was here, something like this, so what you had to do is you have to drag this X and put it on easting, drag Y and put it on northing, and drag Z and put it on RL. Okay, and click OK. Okay, so the initial surface has been imported. So open this surface too. It will not open in two color, it only has XYZ values. So click OK. If the point data is invisible, then just increase the size of the point by pressing P in the keyboard and scrolling up in the mouse. Now to create the DTM, I have already told you, just select the entire data by pressing Ctrl+A and go and click on triangulate selected area, and in the parameters maximum triangle edge length. So this is pretty much uniform point cloud with uniform point density. So let us begin with the minimum value of maximum triangle edge length. So this is very important. Just start with a small value of triangle edge length and then move on to bigger values if there are holes remaining. So I'll begin with let us say 10 meter and click on triangulate. Oh, there are many holes present. So if you are not satisfied with this triangulation process, then do nothing, just click on remove selected triangles and the triangulation process will be gone. So again select the entire data by pressing Ctrl+A, and this time since we knew that 10 meter was not enough, so I have to let us say 20 meter. Okay, so DTM has been created. Close this pop-up window and deselect the data and you can see that the DTM of initial surface has been created. So this is initial surface, and this is the AOI 5 meter was our final surface. Let me open it in another color, let us say aqua. You can see that there is a cavity between these two surfaces, initial and final. So the final surface is of aqua color, initial surface is of pink color, and I have to calculate the volume between these two DTM or these two surfaces. So that we will see in the next class. I hope you enjoyed the video. To see how to calculate the volume, stay tuned with this course. Just like and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you.